Now let's look at the texture painting in Blender, but I want to dive a little deeper into the complexities of it and the potential. So I'm going to not use this cube. I'm just going to go ahead and select it and hit delete. Shift A, and I'm going to go down here from mesh to the monkey. And now with this monkey, I'm going to divide it up a little bit. So I'm going to go to the modifier properties, subdivision surface, and click on that. And maybe do 2, maybe 3 subdivision surface so it's nice and smooth. And then as long as I'm in object mode, I should be able to come here and hit apply. There we go. Now I feel like I've got something to work with. And if I go to texture paint, I can see that, yes, these are the UVs of the monkey. In other words, it's laid out flat. And I can see that it's pink right now. It's not ready to go. We have to kind of assign some objects here. But let's kind of talk about what's happening when we do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come up here and drag this down like this, and I'm going to switch this view to shader editor. Okay, and I can see that looks like nothing is here yet. And what I'm going to do is up here, I'm going to say I want this to be base color, and I'm going to say 4096 by 4096, and I'm going to say that the main color of the monkey is going to be brown, so I'm going to just change this to a brown and click OK. And what that did, you can see down here, is it created a material. And this is our material here. And this is the file that was 4096 by 4096 that's plugged in to base color. Okay? And what's going to happen is that when I create other channels, let's say the roughness channel, it's going to make another node and it's going to plug that automatically into roughness. So we don't have to do that. Another way to look at what's happening behind the scenes is if I go into the material properties, this is our material, and I can see that base color has something plugged in. And if I open it up, there's a file plugged into here. What's that file? It's this file. Okay, so I think that, and then when I plug in, let's say, roughness, there's going to be an arrow here that I could open up, that there would be something plugged in there. I feel like this is a little bit easier to look at. It's very obvious that that's plugged in, and here we'd have to kind of like look through to see if there's anything else plugged in, and it's not kind of as obvious to look at, but you're able to look at it either way. I'm going to go back to the active tool workspace settings so I can kind of continue on with this character. Now, for painting, I'm going to just drag this over here, and I'm going to set my symmetry on right here. So now I can have symmetry on while I'm painting. And I'll just bring this down a little bit. And I'm going to refer to this as I progress here. But I'm going to just go ahead and paint with white. Again, press F. And now you can see that when I paint, it's going to affect both sides. And I'm just going to kind of paint simple enough that we can kind of tell what's going on here. Okay, there we go. And maybe I want the eyes to be, let's say, black. So again, here we go, black. Okay, excellent. And if I want to see it over here, I'd have to go here and make sure that I select it, and now I can see it. And I'm going to have to zoom out. And again, I can see that, oh yes, I colored that on the eyes. Now I'm going to continue the process by coloring some peach. Find the color that I want. There we go. Maybe for the nose. For the mouth. And the ears. And this is just adding color, okay? Now I feel like adding color is a big deal because I feel like it's the most kind of obvious thing that we can think of when we create a character. It's like we want to add color right away, and we can see that we can paint it in a very literal kind of sense here. However, there's a lot more that we can do with it, and that's what I'm about to demonstrate. So, okay, there we go. So let's say, great. That's all colored as we want it. And now I'm going to add another channel. So right now, I just did color. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a roughness channel. So if I come back up here, this is just base color. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to add roughness. And when I click on that, watch what happens down here automatically. So if I come here, click on roughness, I'm going to say 4096 by 4096, that's the size of the file. And I'm going to say roughness is basically white is going to be matte and black is going to be shiny. So I want the majority of this monkey to be matte, in other words, not shiny. You can see he's shiny right now, but if I go to black, black is going to represent shiny, white is going to represent not shiny or roughness. And so I'm going to leave it at white and click OK. And now I can see that roughness is plugged in to roughness automatically. And you might say, well, Dave, now he's completely white and it ruined our color. Well, that's true, but only for this channel here, the viewport shading. If I go over to this one, this is going to be able to see our material all together. And now we can see that, well, that's what it looks like if we paint it on a matte surface. Okay, so now if I paint black on roughness, I'm just going to go back to here. Watch what happens if I'm just going to paint up here just to make it easy. If I paint like this, what's going to happen is that wherever I paint black is going to be shiny, and wherever it's white, it's going to be matte. So if I go back here, you can see that I painted shine in areas, and I can stay in this mode, and you can see that when I'm painting, I'm actually painting black. Okay, and if I wanted to see that, I can come here. So if I go back to this, now this doesn't make any sense on the top of his head, so I'm going to go back to white and just paint all of that white. Or I could go here to the flood bucket and I can just fill white. Okay, there we go. Now a place that might make sense to make his eyes shiny, that might make more sense. So I'm going to go back to my paint and make sure that that's set to black. And now if I paint, and remember, I'm not painting color, I'm painting roughness. And you could think about roughness is the opposite of shininess. So where it's white, it's going to be rough, in other words, not shiny. And where it's black, there's going to be the lack of roughness, in other words, shine. So now if I go back to the material, I can see that his eyes are shiny and the rest of it is not. Maybe I want his mouth to be shiny, and I can paint just directly on here. And now I can see it looks like his mouth is kind of wet or shiny. Okay, so that is the idea behind roughness. Okay, and again, if I want to isolate and see my roughness map, I can see it here, or I can see it all together here. If I wanted to see my roughness map here, I'd have to come in here and I can choose roughness, and now I would be able to see it here. And because the wire is so dense, it's kind of hard to see it, but I feel like we can see it here, and I would be able to paint directly on here if I wanted to. But I feel like this is looking pretty good. Let's take a look at another map. Okay, so again, we're constructing our material, our shader down here. So I'm just going to bring this down so we have a little bit more room to look. And if I come here, I'm going to go ahead and hit bump map, or bump. And now, again, 4096 by 4096, I'm going to leave it at gray and click OK. And now I can see that I have a couple nodes here. I've got the file and then kind of a special bump file. And this is going to be kind of like magic detail, if you will. Okay, so I'm going to isolate. I'm going to isolate to just this one. And remember I said we told it to be gray to start with. Now if I paint black, and then if I paint white, okay, it might look like, why would I do that? Okay, but let's take a look at how it looks when I look at the material. When I look at the material, it looks like this is sticking up, and it looks like this is cutting into the model. And now watch this. If I paint with, let's say, black, it looks like I'm cutting into the model. And if I paint with white, it looks like it's sticking up. Okay, it's responding to the lighting. So again, really cool. If I come in here, I can go to the rotation of the lighting, and you can see that it kind of responds to that rotation of the lighting. Okay, so again, really, really cool stuff here. Now, if I go back here, that probably doesn't make much sense. So I'm just going to undo, Control Z, and then maybe I want to have like hair or something along those lines. Make it look like it's kind of sticking up. So maybe what I would do is go into white. Okay, so it is white, and then maybe F to bring this down, and then I can kind of do maybe some stylized hair. Okay, and whatever I want. Okay, and I could go in, or I could even come in here and maybe do some stylized wrinkles. So maybe I want those wrinkles to go in, so maybe I go in a really small brush. Okay, and I've got some wrinkles, I've got some hair. Now let's see what that looks like all together. And again, looks kind of cheesy. I'm not adding color or anything. I'm just adding the effect of the bump and the you know, for the normal map. But I could come in here and maybe I smooth this out. So if I come in here with the blur and come in here, or maybe the smudge. Let me see if I smudge this. Yeah, you can kind of see what's happening here. So maybe I kind of increase this, and I can kind of, I don't know, smudge this around and kind of play with that. But I feel like, again, a lot of cool things that we can do here. And the point of what I'm saying is that you can isolate each map, and then you can kind of play with each map, and then you can kind of see here. Now, that bump is kind of looking cheesy, and what you'll see here is down here we can see it's kind of like a connection. And what I could do is if I hold down Alt and click on that, it'll disconnect. And now I can see that if I put color back to normal and then this back into normal, actually color into height, and then let's see, Alt. There we go. And now you can see that it works again. So if I change my mind, I can just cut this. I can hold down Control and right mouse click, and it forms a knife, and I can disconnect it. And then again, if I change my mind, I can just plug it back in. So kind of a little bit more complex look at how materials are handled in Substance, or I'm sorry, in Blender.